Hi, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Oh,
Hello, sir.
yes. Hi, Pam. Welcome to the class.
Hi.
Sorry for
Parang
keeping you waiting.
okay lang, sir. Parang si Steph, mag-online din yun eh. Hindi pa ata.
Kakilala mo ba siya?
Hindi, nakachat ko kasi siya.
Okay, yeah.
Ngayon lang din. Papasok siya
Yeah.
ngayon.
Because we were just talking about your exam since ikaw naman, perfect attendance ka. So you have nothing to worry about. As I've said, graded din ang inyong attendance, which is for me, it's 20%. Then I already gave you the feedback for your activity, right? And you really did great. You have a high score of 90 plus for the activity. And then after this session, of course, you will still have an activity regarding the nervous system and the special senses. So, meron pa rin task. I'm not sure kung na-post ko na, pero tapos na din siya. So, that's another 60 or 70 items to help you also with your review. So, for now, we'll just finish this session. And then, pag-usapan natin, I think nag-chat din sa akin si Steph na interested naman siya for the exam para pag-usapan nyo because as early as Sunday, I can proctor the exam online. We'll just make it an hour. Anytime within Tuesday to Thursday. Well, as early as possible. Syempre, mas maganda para you'll know na agad if you were able to pass this level 1 and for us to process your certification. And then you can move to the other level course na. But for now, at least, yun lang. So, were you able naman to take your time to review?
Yes, sir. Yun lang. Tinatry ko lang i-familiarize ba. Yun lang. Siguro, sige lang sabihan, pag-usapan siguro namin ni Steph kailan. Ano yun, sir? Paano yung exam?
Yun nga, kasi kung available kayo ng 1 hour, of course, after office hour, because I have work then until 5. So, ganito din, online. You will see the questions on your screen, then I'll give you time to answer. Tapos you will just have to submit your answer to me, then I'll check it personally. So, you'll have,
Okay.
of course, it's gonna be the same as what's the format of your exam. So it will be a multiple choice type exam. So you don't have to worry about really filling out the blanks or matching type. So kung meron mang matching type, yung mga napag-aralan din naman natin. Pero as much as
Pero
possible,
ano siya, Belle? May
it
time,
will,
sir.
yes, of course. Kasi kasama sa training natin would be for you to properly use your time. So it's a test-taking strategy because in the exam, 150 items, you only have 5 hours, 40 minutes. So basically, you have 2 minutes to review. To review the question and the choices. Pero sa atin kasi madali because this is just medical term. So this can be one sentence, two sentence, and then choices. Unlike sa pag-coding na tayo ng level 3 and above, it's really a case scenario, just like yung mga example ko, mga operative records, consultation, all. So yeah, while waiting, because we're already 25 minutes after 6, so I guess we need to start para na din matapos natin yung ating agenda. So how do I put it in full screen? Yeah. Okay, so our topic is nervous system, and when he mentions the nervous system, it's usually the brain, your spinal cord, and your peripheral nerve. So all of those na nagbibigay sa atin ng movement, controlled by the brain, give us our senses or our mga feelings, our sense of taste, our eyesight, our hearing, our smell, all of those are all interrelated because they are monitored, they are controlled by, of course, your brain. And all those electrical impulses, all those feelings, taste, smell, sounds, or audios you were able to process from your nerve endings or to your different parts of the body that will get the information, it needs to be processed in the brain. So if it's like a computer, you have your mouse, you have your keyboard, you have the screen. So it gives the information needed. And then the motherboard will now process the information, whether what you will do. Do you want to play a sound? Do you want to click on a picture or on a link? Do you want to type text? So, ganun din sa katawan natin. Yung mga body parts natin, they're all connected through the brain using your nerves. Then the nerves will be channeled into your spinal cord, and the spinal cord is connected to your brain. Now, what we need to learn about the nervous system is it's basically divided into or categorized into two classification or two division. You have your peripheral nervous system and you have your central nervous system. When you say peripheral, if you know the English term periphery, it means parang on the extension. It's on the outside. So your peripheral nervous system would be composed of your mga nerves. So where can we find our nerves? All over the body. But syempre nandiyan sa mga skin, nasa muscle, it's in our fingers, it's in our hands, our feet, all over that body part. So peripheral natin, your extremities, right? Your arms and your legs. Now, central, meaning parang it's the primary focus, priority, the major part. So your central nervous system would be, of course, the brain, which is on your skull. Oh, so it's on your cranium and also your spinal cord. Okay? Kaya nga, di ba, sabi nila, pag na-damage yung spinal cord mo, you can get paralyzed. Pag na-damage yung brain mo, you may have problems with your health, with breathing. Pwede kang makoma, or you may even die because the brain controls all the functions of the different body parts. So that's peripheral and nervous system, central nervous system. Okay, now let's identify the different functions of the nervous system. Hi, Steph, you're already in. So this is our last topic for our level 1 course. And then once you have all the informations, once you have reviewed the different topics we were able to discuss for the past 6 weeks, then if you think you're ready to take the exam, you contact the admin. So ayan, dalawa na kayo ni Pam. So we'll just wait for the feedback for Gino. Pero mag-usap kayo ni Pam. I'm okay to schedule the final exam as soon as Sunday or anytime between Tuesday and Thursday, as long as it's after office hours. So preferably 6 onwards. So it will be a 1-hour proctored exam, multiple choice, or I can add some matching type. But definitely no fill in the blanks. Para you will get to practice how it's like to take the actual exam, where the choices are already given. So you just need to select which one is the best choice or the correct answer. Okay ba tayo doon, Steph?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Okay, but you're already paid naman for the course fee? Or may balance pa?
May balance pa po.
Oh, yun nilang. You need to contact directly admin because as we are instructed, no test permit, so you cannot join or you cannot get your exam. So our 4 functions, of course, control your internal environment to maintain homeostasis. Homeostasis means balance. So in the body, you need everything that to be in balance, in equal value, in equal amount. Whether it's be the fluid in your body, the number of a specific cells in a part or region, right? So high blood ka ba, low blood ka ba, dehydrated ka, well hydrated, or edematous ka, you have swelling. So all of those has an effect in the body. And one of the functions for that is to control. Because when one elements of the body is not in balance, that part of the body will signal the brain. And the brain will process that information. The brain will be the one to task the different organ systems or body parts to compensate. So for example, if your body is sobra or over in your fluid. So you swell, you're edematous. Then you urinate more. Then the fluids in your body should be excreted by sweating or by other means. Because if not, there's gonna be a negative effect of that imbalance in the body. So programming of spinal cord reflexes. So we all know that our movements are controlled by your brain. It's being coordinated. So the muscles and bones move because of the brain signals. All those electrical synapses or electrical signals will not transfer from the brain going to the muscles, the nerves, and the specific body part that will needs to move. And now, for your hands or fingers to move, it doesn't go directly brains to your fingers or brains to your feet. Of course, all those signals would now pass through the main highway of the electrical impulses, which will be in your spinal cord. So the spinal cord is really delicate because once your spinal nerve gets injured, then you may have paralysis of the body. So we may all see in movies or in some medical TV shows that we see that whenever there's someone who met an accident and they were badly injured in their spinal cord, so they may show symptoms or even conditions that they lost their reflexes or their movements in a specified body part. Also for memory and learning, of course, that's why we're talking about if people were smart, if they are intellectual, or their cognitive functions. So we will all associate that learning is all about the brain because of course it is. Your neurons are the one that stores information, and your functions in your language, in your memory, um, in how you process information like images, so watching videos, your text, and then sounds, your sense of smell, all of those informations are processed in the brain. So it's for memory and learning. And of course, voluntary control of movement. When you say voluntary movement, it's like your brain thinks of doing something, then you can actually do it because you're thinking about doing an action. While involuntary movements are like reflexes, so it's still part of the brain signal that makes the muscles and the nerves and the bones move, but you are not consciously thinking about it. Okay. Now next part. Oh, sorry. So hindi ko lang napalitan yung headings. But of course, as I said, the brain is the main controller of the body. Okay, so all of the body systems are related on the functions of the brain. And if we have problems with the brain, then that specific body system may not function properly. For example, in your urinary system, if you're having problem with bedwetting or incontinence, so the brain will not be able to signal to hold your urine or your sphincter muscle to tighten. So hence, even if you don't want to urinate, that muscle will just let the urine flow out of your body. So you'll have uncontrolled urination. Oh, we call that your urinary incontinence, wherein you cannot hold in your urine in your gallbladder. So there are different word elements, root words, main words that we can use in describing a specific condition or an operation or medical terminology relating to your nervous system or the brain. So when we say cerebro, it's all your cerebrum, and your cerebrum is your brain itself. It's a part of the brain. When you say cranio, it's your skull. So cranial, cranium. So when you hear that, it means it's the skull, it's the bone enclosing the brain. Of course, since the brain is an important body part or organ of the body, you need to protect it. And what is the protection? Your skull, because your skull is a bone and it's hard, right? So thinking about a coconut shell. So the brain is the fluid and the meat shell. And the shell, which is in the hard part would be your skull. Okay? So your word encephalo may also determine that it's pertaining to the brain inside the skull, because when you say en, it's inside, endo. So it's just saying encephalo. So you're combining the terms cephalo, which will point out that it's the brain, and en. So encephalo. So it's in the head part, inside the head. Ganglio or ganglion, it will be considered, especially kapag mayroong mga cyst. So it's located on the ganglion of the brain. Your kinesis, kinetic, it's all about movement. So lepto, thin slender. So you can just go back to these word elements when you're doing your self-review. Meningo, meningitis, meninges. So it's the membrane covering the brain and spinal injury. So it's more of your meningitis when it's inflamed because of viral infection. Walang ibang part ng body na merong meninges na tinutukoy, but kundi dun sa brain and spinal cord. Your myelo is, of course, your bone marrow, or it may also pertains to your spinal cord. Neuro, of course, your nerves. Radiculo, nerve root. Thalamus, part of the brain. The sheath may also be referring to your meninges, especially we term it as your myelin sheath. Ma-encounter natin siya later. Ventriculo is the heart or sa brain. You have your ventricles in the heart or sa brain. Again, we all know that algesia is a term that pertains to anything that is painful. Asthenia is all about weakness, especially myasthenia gravis. So your muscles and the nerves are degenerating, so you're getting weakness. So lepsy, like epilepsy, is all about having seizures. And paresis is pertaining about paralysis. So some part of the body cannot move and cannot feel or cannot have sensation. Fascia is all about speech, because sometimes when we have problems in our speaking or in our language, it has something to do with the problem with the brain. It's not just about the muscles of your voice box, but sometimes the condition is attributed in the condition of your nervous system. Plegia, just like paresis, is all about paralysis. So paralysis, cessation. You cannot move, you cannot control, you cannot feel in that area. So taksha is the order, coordination. It means maybe your body movement, how your bones, muscles, ligaments, tendons move in terms of what your brain wants you to do. Okay, para is beyond, beside, on the side, and sino is about union, together, enjoyment, like synthesis. So as I have said, you have your peripheral and your nervous system. So these two types of classification of the nervous system controls different actions or functions in the body. Your cerebral or your central, of course, it's the one that controls your um, somatic movements. So when we say somatic movements, it's the body functions that you need to be regulated with. So parang automatic yan. For you to live, for you to survive, like breathing, mga ganyan, is control yan ng CNS natin. While your peripheral are those that are controlled by your internal organs and your glands. So, may mga movements na na-generate dun sa mismong specific body system. So, when we say sensory input, it's about your senses, how you feel, how you smell, how you taste food, and how you hear things. So all of those senses. So it will give you an information for the brain to process. While your motor is your movement using your muscles and your bones. So the important parts, your brain, the nerves conduct the electrical stimulation. So when you touch something hot, that information of being hot will be conducted by your nerves. Then that information, electrical impulse, will travel from your nerves going to your spinal cord, then from the spinal cord going to the brain. Then the brain will detect, it's hot. So if your fingers, if your hand, or if your skin touch a hot surface, the brain will tell you, retract. Okay? So stop touching that thing because it's hot. So those are the movements that can be controlled and involuntary. Some are reflex. It's just an automatic movement signaled by the brain. Of course, your spinal cord, main highway of your electrical stimulations or electrical impulses going to the brain to be decoded. Okay. Now, let's go to specific medical terminologies that you may encounter in the exam or what we need to know when we're talking about medical conditions regarding your nervous system. A stroke, generally a stroke is cessation of oxygenation in that specific body part. So there may be a blockage that keeps that body part in receiving oxygen. And of course, your body cells uh, need oxygen. A cell, a group of cell will become a muscle. A group of muscle will become an organ system. And each cell needs the nutrients, the water, the minerals, your oxygen. And if those cells, many cells will not receive oxygen, they will die and they will be necrotic. So, meaning na necrotic, parang um, nabubulok na sila. So, wala na silang function. Basura na sila. And that can be considered as a stroke. Okay? Once that area does not receive oxygen, the cells there, the tissues there, or the muscle will die eventually. So, in our brain, uh, we're having a brain damage, irreversible, meaning wala nang function yung mga masisira. I think if our body does not receive oxygen in the brain for 7 minutes and above, then you're considered brain dead or your brain will not function normally anymore. So ischemic stroke, so there's a blockage, maybe from a clot. So a clot is a solid formation of your blood. It's the blood particles that solidified and joined together. So since you have your arteries, your brain arteries, and it may block the narrow tube, the oxygen and nutrients and the blood and other materials needed for your brain functioning will not flow through to the brain. And then it may also protrude and then rupture. And of course, if it ruptures, the blood here will leak in the surrounding spaces or in the parts of the brain. So you'll have a hemorrhagic stroke. So hemorrhagic, hemo means blood. Okay? So this is more delicado and life-threatening because your brain should not have blood covering it. So if we're going to code it for your ICD code, it's going to be around the codes of I-67.9 or anything that has to do with stroke. nasa I-69. So maybe I-60 onwards. When you have access na to the book, you'll be able to see the definitions of the different codes regarding stroke. But in general, your cerebrovascular disease is stroke. Your ischemic stroke, the same, blockage of the artery going to the brain. And ischemic stroke, it's because there's no supply of your blood and oxygen into the brain. So different terms will just make different meanings. So what's important in the exam? Look for the medical diagnosis, the final diagnosis, the final term for what disease we are trying to code, and then look for the codes. Okay? Because ischemic stroke can be considered a cardiovascular disease, but being specifically mentioned that it is an ischemic stroke, the proper code should be I-99.8. Intracerebral hemorrhage, so intra meaning inside. And we all know that cerebral is all about the brain. So your ICH, meaning there's leakage of blood inside the brain. So the code for that is I-61.9. So these are the mostly because of your hypertension. So there's your blood pressure is thick. The blood is thick, and then the pressure is so high that the arteries going to the brain may rupture. So all those blood will flow and cover your brain. So intracerebral. Subarachnoid, so the hemorrhage because the brain is compartmentalized and the brain was given the different anatomical location or parts. So your subarachnoid, just for better understanding, the doctors, the mga neurosurgeon, neurologists, or even yung mga cardiologists will be able to understand na nandito siya. So nakikita siya sa mga CT scan. So yung mga tinitingnan nilang film will give them the information to locate bakit nag-stroke yung patient or saan may bleeding. So kung may brain surgery, alam nila kung aling part yung i-open or kung aling part yung gagamutin. Hemiplegia, meaning kalahati. So, there are different types of your paralysis where there is no sensation na. So, it can also be there's no movement. So, kapag hemiplegia, meaning lateral. So, either left side of your body or right side. That's hemiplegia. So, the code will determine. So, meron din kasunod na code to depending sa body part or kung ano yung description. So, G81.9. Paraplegia, meaning it's your extremities below your waist. So, the only half of the body will not have sensation or no movement. Quad, kasi apat. Your arms, upper arms, dalawa. Your legs, dalawa. The body. Mono is just one. Okay? Dysphagia is a result wherein usually kapag may brain damage ka sa mga na-stroke, so nahihirapan silang magsalita. You would see them, the problems with their muscles in their mouth, in their tongues. So, there. Because yung brain nila is na-affection, ay naagkakaroon ng pag-apektado kasi na-damage yung sa part ng brain na nagko-control regarding our language ability. So that's dysphagia or aphasia. So A is wala. Dysphagia is having difficulty. So they cannot talk properly. They cannot write properly. Turning their thoughts into understandable things that we normal person was not able to undergo or experience stroke or brain malfunctions will be able to understand. Ataxia, this is now can be seen on the movement of your body. So, parang you lose muscle control. So, pwedeng imbalance ka maglakad, you're not properly coordinate, parang nagiging clumsy ka, madali kang matumba because that part of your brain gets affected. The part that controls your balance and coordination. So you can also see it sa mga na-stroke na patient. That's why they require physical therapy. Kasi para makalakad sila ng maayos, para makapag-function mabuti ulit yung mga muscles nila, kailangan mas stimulate sila back to normal. So, hence yung mga ibang na-stroke, hindi na makakain on their own, hindi na makalakad, or kung makalakad sila, iika-ika, or naka-stroller, naka-wheelchair, kasi hindi na na-develop ulit yung capacity ng brain to balance your movement. Seizure, especially the ones caused by epilepsy or epileptic seizure, okay? It's an effect wherein dun sa brain activity ng brain mo is parang naging abnormal. So, it's just like if the computer is functioning properly or your phone, tapos biglang nag-lag or biglang nag-freeze yung screen. So that's just like an seizure. Instead na your brain is functioning normally or healthily, merong activity sa brain na kakaiba. So code for seizure, it's nasa G40.9 or related in that numbers. So you also have a seizure na this may not be caused naman by epilepsy. Basta na lang parang there's something wrong with your brain. And in some medical conditions, you may have seizure, especially if you're having high-grade fever. You can have febrile convulsions, para lang din siyang seizure. So, signs of symptoms daw ng seizure, parang bigla kang nanginginig. So, uncontrollable jerking movement, or bigla kang nag-stare blankly, or para kang confused. So, pwede ka ding ma-uncontrol yung balance mo. So, you will lose your balance and you will lose your gait. So, madudulas ka, or bigla ka nilang hahandusay sa lapag. So, loss of consciousness, pwede ka ding himatayin. So, it has anything that is parang cessation of your brain activity. Okay? Especially with the electrical activity. Your TIA or your transient ischemic attack. So, transient because it means parang panandalian lang siya during the process of moving. So, here, it seems that there's a clot moving in the artery. So as this clot accumulates and moves, kung saan sila mag-traffic, doon nagkakaroon ka ng blockage. So ischemia, the word ischemia means having not enough oxygen in the blood. In the part of that blood flow. So for transient ischemic attack, it will just be a short span of time. Okay? Because parang nagka-traffic lang, nagkaroon lang ng congestion. Right? So if we're talking about highways, cars, and roads, there's just congestion here. And once this congestion clears up, back to normal na si brain. Multiple sclerosis, eto, mabenta to sa exam kasi kahit naman yung mga sasakit natin ngayon, marami nakaka-expert sa multiple sclerosis, especially females, because in multiple sclerosis, the protective covering of your nerves are being attacked by your body. So parang yung immune system mo, they treat that, may nangyayaring mali sa kanila na parang ina-identify nila yung nerve coverings nila as kalaban. So if they will attack the nerve coverings, so that will be dissolved. So your nerve endings will be exposed. Kaya nga sila may nerve coverings kasi kailangan protected sila. So with multiple sclerosis, as you age by, as time goes by, palala siya ng palala. So you will just lose your normal function. So it's your myelin sheath. So multiple sclerosis, pag-attack ng immune system mo on the myelin sheath of your nerve fibers. Mental illness is a general term Okay, that affects your emotions, your thinking, how you perceive events, how you feel about yourself and the other people and all around you, which is not normal. Okay, you may have a problem in psychology, or it may be brought upon on the changes happening in your brain. So this may be occasional, short term, or abrupt, pasulput-sulput lang, or it can be long-term, chronic. So there's no code kasi we need to identify first which type. Since this is a general term, you need the specific name of the mental illness for that, for you to code properly. Just like this, your affective disorder is F39. Usually yung mga nasa F na code, it's mostly mental, behavior, okay, conditions. So affective because it affects your emotions. So usually it's when you are feeling negative, feeling down. So you're always parang depressed, you don't get positive, you're not enthusiastic, and so it can range from mild to severe. That's why may mga tinatawag din tayong mga severe depression. So another general term ang affective disorder. Anything that has to do with your mood, right? It can be triggered by people, by season, time. So all of this can affect how you perceive things. Anorexia nervosa. So, eto, sikat na sikat sa US because eto din, it's a medical condition. So, this is a mental illness in general. But specifically, a person with anorexia nervosa, you call them anorexic. Why? Because when they look their image, they always think they are overweight, they are fat. But when in reality, when you test their body mass index, when you see their physical appearance, you would say that maybe they're below the average weight or their ideal weight. They are underweight. They are very thin. You could see their bones already. They have thin skin and thin muscle. Maybe they don't even maybe have body fats in their body. But what they perceive themselves to be fat or to be obese. So they would limit their eating. They will do extreme diet and exercise. So as you can see in the image, this is the real. This is the what we perceive, other people perceive. But when they look at the mirror, what they see about themselves is this image. So this is the anorexia nervosa. This is the condition. The person is anorexic. So it's more of the eating disorder. That's why they will not eat, or maybe they will just eat very, very little. Now, anxiety, it is a feeling together with a symptoms or the actions of your body that makes you what? It makes you very worried, and together with the being worried, you have hyper breathing. So you'll have fast breathing, you'll even have cold sweats, or you'll feel